You ever look at a deep-sea creature and think, that thing can't be real? That thing looks like a special effect from a movie that went way over budget. Because let's be honest, the anglerfish, the gulper eel, the giant squid, they're not just animals. They look like aliens that crash-landed on Earth and decided to just stay. And here's the wild part. The deep sea doesn't just house these creatures, it creates them. The same rules that make a fish look normal near the surface get thrown out the window when you go down 3, 4, even 7,000 meters. No sunlight, crushing pressure. Food so rare you might go months between meals. That environment doesn't just shape a creature. It warps it into something we can barely recognize as being from this planet. A very recent study tends to validate this theory, and I will reveal it to you at the end of this video. So what exactly happens down there? And why does the abyss keep producing things that look like they belong in a sci-fi horror movie? Let's dive in. Start with the pressure. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the pressure is over 1,000 times what we feel at sea level. That's like having a fully loaded 18-wheeler parked on your thumbnail. Most animals would be crushed instantly, but deep-sea creatures, their bodies are built different literally. They've evolved gelatinous, watery bodies with no air pockets to collapse. That's why things like the blobfish look like a sad, melting face when brought to the surface. Up there, without pressure holding them together, they just fall apart. Then there's the light, or the total lack of it. Sunlight stops penetrating after about 1,000 meters. So down there, creatures had to invent their own. Bioluminescence isn't just a cool party trick. It's a weapon, a disguise, a lure. The anglerfish dangles a glowing bulb in front of its face to attract prey straight into its mouth. And some species can even flash patterns to communicate or confuse predators. But the transformation goes way deeper than pressure and light. Way deeper and more impressive. Let's talk about size, because down there, things don't just look weird, they get weirdly huge, and I'll explain why in a moment. Scientists call it deep-sea gigantism, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Creatures that live in the abyss grow to sizes that would be impossible for their shallow water relatives. But wait until you discover the giant isopod. You've probably seen pictures of it. It looks like a roly-poly bug that somehow kept growing until it was the size of a house cat. On land, the common woodlouse is maybe a centimeter long. In the deep sea, Bathynomus giganteus reaches up to 0.76 meters, almost 2.5 feet. That's not a bug. That's a creature that could crawl out of a sci-fi set. But the worst thing is definitely the Japanese spider crab. Its legs can span up to 3.7 meters across. Imagine that thing crawling out of the dark toward you. It's not aggressive to humans, but tell that to your primal brain when you see those legs reaching out of the gloom. And what about the squid? The colossal squid can reach 14 meters in length. That's about 46 feet. The giant squid isn't far behind at 12 meters. These aren't animals you casually encounter. These are monsters that would have been mythical if we hadn't dragged them up in nets. So why does this happen? Why does the deep sea turn crustaceans into giants? There's no single answer, but scientists have a few theories. One is temperature. In the deep sea, it's cold, really cold. And in marine crustaceans, colder temperatures are linked to larger body size, a pattern similar to Bergman's rule, where animals in colder climates tend to be bigger. The reasoning goes that colder water slows metabolism, extends lifespan, and allows animals to keep growing for longer. Since crustaceans grow throughout their lives, more time means bigger bodies. Another theory is food scarcity. Sounds counterintuitive, right? Less food rare that meals come months apart. Being bigger actually helps. Larger bodies can store more energy, travel farther to find food, and survive longer between meals. Giant isopods, for example, have been known to go over 4 years without eating in captivity. There's also reduced predation pressure. Down in the abyss, there are simply fewer predators. When nothing's trying to eat you, you can afford to grow slowly, live long, and get huge. It's the opposite of what happens in shallow waters, where being small and fast is often the better strategy. And the other reason is oxygen. Deeper waters hold more dissolved oxygen thanks to higher pressure and lower temperatures. Some scientists have proposed that larger bodies allow animals to process more oxygen, which becomes increasingly important in the deep sea where every breath counts. Put all that together, and you get a recipe for gigantism. Colder water, less food, fewer predators, more oxygen. The deep sea doesn't just tolerate large creatures, it actively selects for them. But the strangest phenomenon is now happening. The deep sea doesn't just make things bigger, it makes them live longer, way longer. Take the tube worm Lamellobrachia lumacea, found in cold seeps in the Gulf of Mexico. This thing grows slowly, lives in near freezing temperatures, and has a metabolic rate that makes a sloth look hyperactive. Its lifespan? Over 250 years. And it's not alone. Many deep-sea creatures have lifespans that dwarf anything we see on land. The Greenland shark, which spends most of its life in deep, cold waters, can live for over 400 years. Some deep-sea corals have been alive for thousands of years. Down there, time moves differently. Why? Because the deep sea is stable. No seasons, no storms, no temperature swings. Everything happens slowly. Growth is slow. Reproduction is slow. Death is slow. The animals that survive down there didn't evolve to live fast and die young. They evolved to wait. And wait. And wait some more. But here's where it gets truly alien. The deep sea doesn't just reshape bodies and lifespans, it reshapes the very molecules inside them. In 2024, a team of researchers published a study comparing deep-sea mussels to their shallow water relatives. They exposed both to high pressure and watched what happened at the genetic level. What they found was astonishing. The deep-sea mussel, Gigantidas platifrons, had evolved specialized adaptations that the shallow water mussel simply didn't have. Genes linked to DNA repair, cell structure, and substance transport were all working overtime to keep cells intact under pressure. The deep-sea mussel also showed enhanced lipid metabolism, essentially. It had figured out how to use fats more efficiently to maintain membrane fluidity in conditions that would turn other cells into rigid blocks. In other words, these creatures don't just survive the pressure. Their cells are fundamentally different from anything we have near the surface. They've rewritten the rules of biology to exist in a place where most life can't even take a breath. The study also found that the deep-sea mussel's gene expression was more stable under pressure than its shallow water cousins. That suggests these animals have been living in the deep for so long that their genomes have fully adapted to the extreme environment. No panic, no emergency responses, just steady, constant survival. But the most impressive thing is still the bioluminescence. And this is where the deep sea really starts to feel like another planet. We used to think bioluminescence was rare, a neat trick that a few animals evolved. But a 2024 study published in the journal Life revealed something staggering. Bioluminescence is found in over 2,700 marine species across nearly 700 genera. And that's just what we've confirmed. Thousands more are still unknown. Think about that. In the deep sea, light isn't a luxury, it's a survival tool. So essential that it evolved independently hundreds of times. Different species use it for different things. The anglerfish uses its glowing lure to hunt. The flashlight fish uses symbiotic bacteria to light up its surroundings. Some squid use bioluminescence to counter-illuminate themselves, matching the faint light from above so predators below can't see their silhouette. It's not just camouflage, it's optical illusion. Now let's bring this back to something the intro promised. Why do these creatures look like aliens? Because they might as well be. In January 2026, a study was published that completely upended what scientists thought they knew about one deep-sea creature. The supergiant amphipod, Alicella gigantea, a pale shrimp-like crustacean the length of a laptop, was thought to be incredibly rare. A handful of sightings over more than a century, a deep-sea legend. The new study pulled together 195 records from 75 locations across the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. What they found is that this creature doesn't just live in a few trenches. It occupies about 59% of the world's seafloor, from roughly 3,900 meters down to almost 9,000 meters, 59%. More than half of the ocean floor. And we had no idea. The researchers also found that populations across the globe were genetically connected. It means this animal is quietly linking deep-sea ecosystems across entire oceans. It's not a loner hiding in the dark. It's a cosmopolitan, a traveler, a hidden giant that we completely missed because we simply weren't looking. And here's the kicker. The same study estimated that less than 0.001% of the deep seafloor has been visually explored. That's an area about the size of Rhode Island. Everything else, the other 99.999%, is still unknown to us. So when we ask why deep-sea creatures look like aliens, maybe the real question is, what else is down there that we haven't even seen yet? The deep sea covers more than 90% of the ocean's volume. It absorbs the majority of excess heat from climate change and about 30% of human-generated carbon dioxide. It's the largest living space on Earth, and it's doing more to stabilize the planet than any other ecosystem. And we've barely scratched the surface. Every time we go deeper, we find something we didn't expect. Giant crustaceans hiding in plain sight. Mussels with rewritten genomes. Squid that communicate with light. Creatures that live for centuries. Animals that have adapted to pressures that would kill us in seconds. The deep sea doesn't just transform creatures into something that looks alien. It transforms them into something that operates by rules we're only beginning to understand. And the more we learn, the clearer one thing becomes. We're not the only planet in this solar system with alien life. It's right here. It's just under the waves. We talked about squid, and they're a perfect example of how creatures evolve as they move from the surface to the abyssal depths. I analyzed this process in more detail in this other video. So, what do you think? Leave a comment to tell me what the most terrifying deep-sea creature you've ever seen is. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing, and see you soon for a new video.